This episode will cover environmental systems. The production of gaseous oxygen for commercial or aircraft cylinders is often through what process? It is done by the process of liquefying air. What is the principal control element in a cabin pressurization system? The cabin outflow valve. What is the purpose of the negative pressure relief valve in the pressurization system? The negative pressure relief valve prevents accidentally obtaining a cabin altitude which is higher than the altitude of the aircraft. What control changes the position of the outflow valve? The pressurization controller, located in the cockpit. It is used to set the cabin air pressure to a desired altitude, normally between 6 and 8,000 feet. What are the two groups of independent cabin compressors? They are positive displacement and centrifugal compressors. What method is used by turbine-powered aircraft for pressurization? Bleed air from the engine compressor is used for pressurization. What limits the degree of cabin pressurization? The structural design features of the fuselage, and by the capacity of the superchargers to maintain a constant volume of airflow to the fuselage. Where does the warm air for cabin heating come from in most small reciprocating engine aircraft? From the shroud around the engine muffler. What are the three methods of supplying heat to the conditioned air when the heat compression is not sufficient for this purpose? Fuel-burning combustion heaters, electric heaters, and exhaust gas air-to-air heat exchangers. What is the function of ventilating air in a combustion heater? Ventilating air is used to carry the heat to the places where it is needed. Where does the fuel used in an aircraft combustion heater come from? The aircraft fuel tanks. What controls the temperature in an aircraft cabin that is heated with a combustion heater? A thermostat. What are the sources for ventilation air in a combustion heater? For air circulation and heater operation on the ground, a blower is used. In flight, ram air inlets or cabin pressure on pressurized aircraft. What are the components of an air cycle cooling system? An expansion turbine, an air-to-air heat exchanger, and various valves which control airflow through the system. What causes a temperature drop in an air cycle cooling system? As the compressed air passes through the expansion turbine, it performs the work of turning the turbine and undergoes a pressure and temperature drop. What are the components in a vapor cycle cooling system? The compressor, condenser, receiver/dryer, expansion valve, and evaporator. How do you determine the liquid level in a vapor cycle cooling system? Operate the system for about 5 minutes to reach a stabilized condition, and then observe the flow of freon through the sight glass. A steady flow indicates sufficient charge. If the freon is low, bubbles will appear in the sight glass. How is the vapor cycle cooling system compressor lubricated? Specialized refrigerant oil. What are the components of a continuous flow oxygen system? Oxygen will flow continuously from a high pressure cylinder through a high pressure line in the pressure regulating reducing valve. The oxygen will then flow through a calibrated orifice in the outlet, controlling the amount of oxygen delivered to the rebreathing mask. What must be done if an oxygen system has been depleted and not recharged within 2 hours? It must be purged with dry nitrogen or dry air and oxygen. What safety consideration must be observed when filling oxygen cylinders? Oxygen cylinders should be filled in an oil-free environment. The mechanic who fills the cylinders should not have any petroleum products on their clothes, hands, or in their hair. What is the main chemical agent inside of an oxygen generator? Sodium chlorate is the main chemical agent used in aviation oxygen generators. The chemical is ignited by a spark emitting gap, and when it burns, O2 is generated. These systems are lighter and less complex than oxygen storage based systems. The main drawback of oxygen generators is that once the burning of the sodium chlorate begins, it cannot be stopped until the chemical is consumed. How are high and low pressure oxygen cylinders identified? High pressure, 1,800 to 1,850 psi, oxygen cylinders are green in color and have the words Aviators Breathing Oxygen stenciled lengthwise in white, 1-inch letters. Low pressure, 400 to 425 psi cylinders are painted light yellow. What are the three ways that supplemental oxygen can be carried in an aircraft? As liquid oxygen, a high pressure gas, or as a chemical candle. What is an acceptable lubricant for installing oxygen system fittings? Teflon or water-based lubricants. What type of grade of oxygen must be used in aircraft? Aviator's grade breathing oxygen. What is a Roots blower? A type of engine-driven compressor. What is a British thermal unit? It is a unit of heat. It is defined as the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 pound of water by 1 degree Fahrenheit. How does a water separator work in an air cycle air conditioning system? It operates using centrifugal forces to spin the water out of the air. How many people does it take to service an oxygen system? 2. One to apply pressure and one to monitor the gauge. Name two types of air conditioning systems. Vapor cycle and air cycle machine. What are the sources of ventilating air in a combustion heater? Ram air while flying and electric blowers on the ground.